Welcome into the latest episode of the NFL podcast on the Betting the Pitch Podcast Network. We have A_Snicker back in the saddle, which we actually had Tony fill in with a best bet winner,
Yeah, you don't need
Monday
me.
night over.
You don't need me.
No, 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 that's not true. I lost again with my Carolina Panthers pick. Felt good for a little while, and then they got absolutely blown out. Um, And I just feel like the big underdogs are a tough thing to do at this time of year. And now we got another one coming up first on the bat. We're going to go through the standalone games on Saturday, and then we're going to also go through as many games we get through on Sunday, including the big one that probably is the biggest Week 18 game we've ever seen, maybe.
Yeah.
I guess you could argue getting in since both these teams are in the playoffs, then maybe that's a little different. But that will be the Vikings visiting the Detroit Lions. We'll get to that a little bit later. We'll start in, and of course, we can go through what these matchups mean and who's playing and who's not, because we're speculating on Thursday night, January 2nd. Cleveland Browns will start on Saturday, 20-point underdogs at the Baltimore Ravens. Total
Oh my
is
goodness.
41. Um,
20 point. I don't remember last night. I haven't seen this in a while.
I don't think we've ever, I can't remember a 20. 17 that we saw earlier, I think we have seen plenty.
Yeah.
I had this 18 and a half, and so even it's bigger than what I was expecting. And so this game is being played before the Bengals and the Steelers, which seems a little bit weird with the kind of a move towards the same time simultaneous scheduling. But I
hmm
guess you could argue that the Steelers still have something to play for because they are playing for seeding, not just for the AFC North. And that's why it's okay for ESPN to have a standalone game because I guess that was probably part of the contract, and that's why they decided to go against these new rules and regulations.
Yeah.
Um, Ravens win this game, they win the AFC North.
Yeah.
Do they cover 20?
Well, it's funny you had it at 18 and a half because like when we get to numbers this high, you have to start handicapping in chunks. You know what I mean? Like 18, 19, 20. Does it
Who
really matter
cares?
until,
Like,
until you
does
get
it
to 21? Like that's
is
I think
21? Like, I can't imagine 21
it's
anywhere near the same type of key number that even
Oh no. I
team
mean, you're just doing it
17
based
is
off of
capable.
like total basic, understanding of football at that point. Um, yeah, Baltimore looks great. They look really, really good. What's the thing that we've talked about a lot with Cleveland because we've bantered back and forth about potentially playing them the last half of the season is just like you cannot account for how many turnovers and it doesn't seem to matter who's at quarterback. If it's Jameis, you kind of know that there's going to be some turnovers. DTR also turnovers. It's just been, um, you know, just turnover after turnover, and that's you get a nice little peek behind the curtain with Hard Knocks with some of this stuff. I think Stefanski's just like everything that could go wrong has gone wrong. Um, and yeah, I don't know. I would say Baltimore covers this 20. If I had to make a pick, if I had to play this game, I would say I'd take Baltimore minus 20. What about you?
I don't really see a reason to back DTR. In any sort of situation. I do think the Browns chose DTR because they were trying to lose, and Jameis Winston gives them a chance to win. You could argue with
Because you
injury,
don't know, yeah.
but at this point, I think teams are the smarter ones are looking for reasons to not let Antonio Pierce get his team so motivated that they win games and lose the number one draft pick. But some franchises are smarter than others. I wonder if Kevin Stefanski will stick around because it's kind of hard to respond to one of these type of years. And will he even want to? Because going back to Sean Watson's not much better. Um,
hmm
we saw the Browns last weekend in what should have been a rain game. I guess it was a little bit rainy. I don't think it was as bad as it looked on camera, but or on camera didn't look as bad as maybe it was live. But we saw that total get all the way down to 32 and a half for Cleveland hosting Miami. Different state of mind here, of course, with the Ravens and that offense. But I feel like to me, under 41 is probably my biggest interest in this matchup, just because that way
Yeah.
if the Browns hang around, then it's possible that they cover the spread and keep this game. But I also think the Ravens are going to be pulling their starters as soon as this game's in hand, and it should be in hand pretty quickly. Move to
Yeah.
the Saturday night game, the Cincinnati Bengals and the Pittsburgh Steelers. This is a big one for all teams, all involved. So, of course, the Steelers have an outside chance at winning the AFC North. Simply need a 20-point underdog 13-1 odds to pull off a straight up victory, and then the Steelers have a shot. But they're 2.5 point underdogs at home to the Cincinnati Bengals. Total is 48 on this matchup. Are you surprised to see the Bengals favored?
No, because I mean it goes back to what we talked about in the preseason and the public's love and I mean I think there were a lot of people backing Cincinnati throughout this year. And so no, I'm not really surprised, especially you look at what Pittsburgh has done over the last couple of weeks and um, you know, everyone's enamored with the offense of the Bengals, which rightfully so. It's been a treat to watch. It's been the other side of the ball that probably is going to have a lot of changes this offseason. I mean, we could probably do a whole podcast just looking at the Bengals and their missed opportunities throughout the year. There, there's really no reason this team should not be a playoff team. You know what I mean? Um, so it's just been I I always go back to like they have the best. I think the best quarterback currently in the NFL. I think Joe Burrow is the best quarterback. And what this defense has fallen off, like Sam Hubbard's injured. Um, they just don't have any pieces there. So, and this is a rematch from what, like a month ago where Pittsburgh won. So,
And the Bengals were
um,
2.5 point favorites at home. Now we've flipped
yeah,
the
now
field,
they flip it,
and the
which
Bengals are
is yeah, going to be talked
the
about a
same
lot,
favorite.
right?
The same favorite. Yes, Pittsburgh has looked horrible against the best part of their schedule. So say that maybe they are just bad in general, or they were playing the best teams in football. I don't know how any value player could be looking at the Bengals here. It's simply you're backing the Bengals having an outside chance of the playoffs, needing a victory here.
Hmm.
Steelers needing a victory less because they're already in, but at the same time, they could somehow steal an AFC North and a first round home game, which would be huge. But I think they're mostly angling for that fifth seed so they can visit Houston in the first round of the playoffs as opposed to going to Baltimore. And I think that's a serious consideration for them, uh,
Well,
dropping from 5 to 6 if the Chargers could pass them.
that's what I was like to you. We Baltimore takes care of business. The division's wrapped up. Go before this game starts. Like I'm saying, scenario hypothetical. Do you think like is that a deflating type of situation for the Steelers? You know what I mean? Like, um,
I think they're realistic and they know that the Bengals are a tough matchup for them and that they are the only other team with a pulse in the division. So I don't think they have many expectations for the Browns to pull off this upset. That would be a huge surprise and it'd be like, wow, that probably would give them an extra oomph or something like that to the game
yeah,
plan and the style and how they go about it. Maybe hit a little bit harder in the first quarter or something. But to me, I think trying to avoid going to Baltimore, to me, I mean, some coaches like we've seen Sean McVay, and we can talk about that later, not really caring about games. If they're in the playoffs, they're in the playoffs. We're resting our guys. Who cares where we go?
yeah.
Maybe to his chagrin, we'll see. But Pittsburgh, they definitely have something to play for, just because that division will likely be clinched before they kick off on Saturday evening. I don't know if that's enough to dissuade Pittsburgh from playing their best players, trying to win this game. I also think Pittsburgh under Mike Tomlin, I feel like he's a tougher minded type of more old school manager or head coach who would probably be in there trying to make the calls to win games. I think he thinks about his permanent record and his all time record. I think that probably matters to the guy. And honestly, I think the Steelers, for how bad they've been playing, certainly limping into the playoffs, you could argue that they need this game just as much as another team that's already locked in here. I think there's enough that I'm very interested in Pittsburgh. I've been backing them a ton, and Russell Wilson has been ruining my Christmas or New Year's or whatever day or time he's been playing on. But Bengals, I mean, they have somehow have found some really fortunate wins this year and certainly some fortunate covers. Just look at overtime last weekend after they doinked a field goal, the ridiculous Leon Lett 2.0 in Dallas on Monday night. We can argue that they're certainly Cincinnati is the best quarterback in football, maybe the two best receivers on the same team as well. But there's a lot of problems on that other side of the ball, and I feel like a road favorite is just too aggressive an adjustment based on what the Bengals need here, and a Steelers home team that I think will still show up.
I think we can. we can go longer on some of these because the amount of games that really matter, feel like less to me. But what if Baltimore were to lose? Where do you think this line ends? Where does this line go if Baltimore loses, and we've got what's the time between kick? 20, what's that 20 minutes? Or even like if it's looking like they're gonna lose, like is Pittsburgh
I
gonna
mean,
get enough
there's no time
attention?
to install a new game plan. So like nothing can change there. I do think there you could see some motivation number
That's
change.
what I mean. Like, does this get closer to pick or is it
I
move?
mean, the nice part is these numbers between 2.5 and pick 'em
Yeah,
don't mean much.
well,
If we saw the Bengals at 3-point favorites and the Browns end up somehow shocking the world and beating the Ravens, I do think Pittsburgh gets hit back down below three. But
I
that's
think we might. If I think if Baltimore wins, we might see this get to three.
you might see Cincinnati get to three,
Yeah,
3-point favorites.
yeah. I think if Baltimore wins, or is like, I think what we'll probably want, and I'm sure we'll be talking
I can't
like
wait to talk
Saturday
about
evening,
this.
huh? Unless you've got a date or you're going to be doing something. I don't do anything ever, so you're going to Vegas and all sorts of stuff.
I did have a very nice time in Vegas. Thank you for all of you that donated to my cause. I appreciate that. I don't think you're right. I think so. You're saying that if the Browns somehow would win, I mean, very
No, no,
little.
no, 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 no. If the Ravens win, if they take care of business,
Oh,
if they take care of business, sorry, if that was not clear.
it
If
was
the
not.
Ravens take care of business, they clinch the division. I think, or in the fourth quarter, so we're talking about like 6 o'clock Central Time.
Sure.
We just need to watch the screen. I feel like people are going to start putting more on the Bengals, and it's going to be a total motivation
Anticipating that
play.
the Steelers will play less
Like,
interested or will
right, because like
potentially.
they're in the playoffs, but they can't win the division. So, like, I think if we like the Steelers, if anyone likes the Steelers in this matchup, you should wait. There's there's no unless you think Cleveland's going to win. There's no reason to go now.
Okay, I see that. Yes, if Cleveland wins, I think we do see some money come in on Pittsburgh.
Oh
But for
yeah,
the most part,
yeah,
I'm waiting for Pittsburgh to get a three, and I think we'll get it.
I agree. Yeah.
All right, let's move to the big one on Sunday, and then we can sprinkle through some games while we run out of time. The Minnesota Vikings right now, 2.5-point underdogs on the road at Detroit in the Sunday Night Football extravaganza, bombanza, whatever, bonanza, whatever we're calling it. It looks like probably most places or other places across the market have the Lions 3-point favorite. That is kind of my buy price on Minnesota, but I also see no reason to jump into that yet. Total is 56. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this one.
Mm, what a game. I see Bet Online is desperately clinging to that 2.5. They'll pay you $1.10 to take Minnesota at 2.5.
Yeah, which makes me think
Um,
you could just buy it to three now for even money.
for what, like $1.15?
Yeah, something like that. Sure.
Um, well, so I was supremely impressed with both of these teams last week. Um, I think I think the market has kind of downgraded San Francisco's offense over the last half of the year, and I'm going somewhere with this because I think
Get us there.
we've got time. We've got time. Don't worry. Um, so I guess like after this game or after the Monday Night Football game with the Lions and 49ers, I think everyone was just talking about, oh, can the Lions sustain a playoff run with this defense, like watching them get torched by San Francisco. And I kind of take the different approach that like the San Francisco offense, yeah, sure, the offensive line is not what it could be, but like those weapons, when they've played in good conditions in the last half of the season, they've played well. Um, we were talking about a snow game in Buffalo, they played terribly. We're talking about when Brock Purdy was injured, played terribly. Talking about a rain game in there, played terribly. But like at home, nice conditions, they're good. It's a good offense. So like to me, we know the Lions defense is not very good. I think like we're gonna get an overreaction to like how poorly they played on defense. To me, like this still feels like Lions or nothing, which is I guess conveniently what the book wants me to do. Um, but like I'm not gonna go away from the Lions after all this whole year. Like they've overcome every time and they're still winning and still covering. So at some point, it feels like I'm over if we're overthinking it, if we're trying to get cute with it.
How do we be getting cute?
If you're taking Minnesota when Detroit's been the better team, power rated against the spread all year, Detroit's been the better team.
Detroit won 23-17 in Minnesota in week two. So it's been a long time since they
Long
played.
time. Yeah.
Sorry, I'm looking at the San Francisco schedule. That was actually San Francisco losing at Minnesota in week two. My bad. I think that was a best bet of yours, if I'm not mistaken. Um, I was looking at the 49ers for
Mhm.
reasons to get to in a second. For the Minnesota Detroit actual matchup, that was in week seven, a
Still a
two
long time ago.
eight, yes, indeed, a 2-point win for the Lions at
Hmm.
Minnesota. Uh,
Hmm.
over 100 yards receiving for I'm on St. Brown. I'm on Raw, excuse me, St. Brown. Gibbs 116 rush yards, Goff 280 passing yards, and it was 10-0 Minnesota, then 21-10 Detroit, 28-17, and then a 12-3 fourth quarter got Minnesota pretty close toward the end. But a late field goal from Jake Bates with 15 seconds left ended up winning the game. So that was back and forth. I think I had Minnesota in that one. Uh,
Hmm.
and I am not sure that I'm on the same page with you for this matchup. So
Okay, let's hear it.
I don't think Detroit has shown a competent defense in what feels like months to me. And
Well,
I
the season's only months, so yes, a month. Yes.
Uh, 34 points to the 49ers, 17 points allowed to Chicago, which feels like 3 weeks worth at this point after what we saw on Thursday Night Football with Seattle's questionable, maybe you could call it average or below average defense, only conceding 3 points. We saw 48 points to Buffalo, 31 points to Green Bay, 20 in that first matchup with Chicago as well. When in a game that could have easily been won, got Eberflus fired on Thanksgiving or so. I think it was Thanksgiving Day.
Mhm.
So that's I guess it's been a little bit more than a month. I haven't seen any progress. Aaron Glenn's yelling at dudes, their best player, the only one that seems to be healthy in Branch, for getting a personal foul penalty and then keep him on the sideline. It worked out against the 49ers team, which also was not doing anything offensively. Let's be real. They scored a lot against Detroit, only got 17 on the road at Miami, as enclosed a favorite rain game, if we're calling it that, against a pretty porous Los Angeles defense, only scored six. Killed Chicago after they put their joke of a running backs coach, passing game coordinator, elevated him to OC and then to head coach, who like looks about as competent as you and I, like we were just playing Madden or something like that for the first time. Um, I just like scored 10 points at Buffalo in the snow, you could say it, but Buffalo put up 35, like 10 points before that at Green Bay. Like there's, I think, a lot of problems here for San Francisco. And so to me, I feel like all these teams that have no capable offensive players or personnel or strategy have been scoring on Detroit. And I feel like Minnesota was undervalued by the market last week as a closing an underdog to Green Bay at home. Led that game throughout, got very close late, which was nerve-wracking. But I feel like the Detroit side is they're just gonna have to outscore you. So I feel like if you like Detroit, you might want to look to over in this matchup, which is gigantic, climbed from
Where we at?
52 all the way to 56. I think it was even
Holy
higher than that
moly.
at one point. I saw 52 and a half
There's no statistical simulation that's going to get it to 56.
because
That's
the Lions play slowly, or what?
no, like I mean, there's just no one's going to get this number to 56. If you use a model of some sort, like you could ask any of your buddies that have models and be like, "Hey, what total do you have for this game?" No one's getting to 56.
But
But,
they know that it's going to be. I mean,
but yeah,
might
who's
be
going to go under? Why are you going to go under in this?
Well, you probably want to take a position at 56 right now because you'll be seeing 59 by the time kickoff comes around Sunday Night Football when everyone's chasing their Week
Oh
18
my
plus six
gosh,
draft pick.
59. That would probably be a record for a NFL
I
game.
want to say that we had a Rams 49ers Mexico City game or maybe Rams Chiefs and it was like 62 or something like that. But like we are in nosebleed territory. 50 to me seems like a very high total in the NFL in the year of our Lord 2024. Though now
We're
we're
not in 2024.
Thank you. I was getting there. Now that we're in the year of our Lord, the year of Medusa 2025, defenses have turned to stone, and we might like, who knows? Maybe this is the year where we're going to see totals in the 70s, like Todd Dodge, the head coach of the Detroit Lions, now all of a sudden from his North Texas days. Um, I think there's a lot of problems in Detroit. I think their offense has papered over some cracks, and I am very much looking forward to a Lions 1 or 2 point win so they get the 1 seed, and I can just bet against them until they're eliminated. And I think it happens early in the playoffs.
This is your time to shine. So I'm not going to really like push back too much. This is playoff Griffin.
I
So,
mean, it's time. This
it's now or never, buddy.
this is the time. I will say, I started off the year really well, which is not usually how I do the NFL. It's usually I come in at the late in the season, and that's when things all seem to align. Um,
Yeah.
I am sad that Derrick Henry's not going to be a big underdog with Tennessee every year in the playoffs like he was in the past, but we'll
Yeah.
see down the line. Do you have anything else you want to talk about that big Sunday
I mean, I
night?
feel like we should talk more. We could talk more about it. It's just like, okay, so um,
I think Minnesota has a competent defense. I think Brian Flores has done a great
oh
job.
yeah, for
I think
sure.
he is running the equivalent Bill Belichick defense without all the personnel issues. And from what I saw from Kevin O'Connell, the favorite for Coach of the Year, despite outside looking in for the 1 seed the entire regular season, and those play calls late to ice the game against Green Bay, who had done a huge, immaculate job coming back with all the play actions and things, really trusting his quarterback. We don't see that from a lot of coaches. Usually they are just running it up the gut and just hoping, praying for a 10-yard run or for Chase Brown to run over the middle and not slide, which, of course, that only happens when I'm against him. But uh, he'll definitely slide when I got nothing to do with it, and then hurt his leg and miss the Week 18 game that might determine their playoff lives and maybe his contract status. So a lot of things there, but Minnesota to me, I think they are. I'm kind of hoping they stay under the radar, but I don't know how I can bet them on Sunday Night Football and have them cover the spread unless it's a really tight loss late. Or maybe some weird cover situation where they'd go for two and don't get it with this current spread. But I guess even a Detroit 3 point win would certainly satisfy me as potentially making Minnesota that 5 seed and then also making Detroit look a little bit better with the 1 seed, though I'm
I,
sure
I
Detroit will be up for this game.
I hear what you're saying. It's just like the one seeds just have such an extreme advantage
We do.
that it's almost hard to fade. Although I will say, I mean, last week or last year, 49ers, it was they you could fade them all the way through. Um,
Because they were losing against the spread but winning each week. And
yep,
you could argue, I mean, because the Chiefs went into Buffalo and knocked off the 1 seed. So, I mean,
yep,
we can get into that in a little bit. And that's probably an interesting game to talk about if you're ready to
yeah,
kind of move on from
yeah.
this one.
Let's talk about that
So,
one.
uh, the Broncos have everything to play for. The Chiefs have nothing. 1 seed already clinched. And we've seen some incredible swings on this number, I got to say. Currently, Denver Broncos 10.5 point favorites. I thought, I mean, I don't even want to say what I expected this game to be. Uh, I think this one got spoiled for me. So I initially, before I was like thinking of scenarios, I'd made this number, and I think I had made it like the Broncos a 4.5 point underdog. So like that's not
Is that with everyone playing?
that's like that's about as okay. What should this number be? Knowing that the Chief, I think I made it after before the Chiefs play because I try to get a number out there
Yeah,
before a game happens if they're playing
yeah.
before the rest of them. Um, and yeah, 3.5 is what I had. The Chiefs is a favorite. Excuse me. Then I made the 4.5 point dogs, thinking that there's going to be an adjustment for interest in this game and potentially Carson Wentz starting. And now
Mhm.
we're at 10.5 from 9 to 10 to 10.5. Total has climbed from 39 to 40. And there doesn't seem really to be a lot of faith in the Chiefs, who have nothing to play for, as said. But the Denver Broncos have to win to get in the playoffs. So that certainly makes a lot of sense and explains a lot. To me, the interesting part is I feel like the Chiefs are playing about as well as they have all season. They look very dynamic and like they have a lot of choices. Their defense has been great. But the problem with defenders is if you are playing backups, that can fall off a table and fall off a cliff really quickly, I think.
Yeah,
Um, and so I don't know necessarily how to value this game. I think you could say that for a lot of the games on this card. That's why it might be hilarious to listen back to this podcast after the game's all finished and see how well we do against the spread. We got the Chiefs 10.5 point underdogs on the road at Denver. Total is 40.
yeah. You have to. This is where like you have to. You're speculating on numbers. Um, Like is Mahomes, how much are we factoring in like some of the defensive players that aren't going to play? Like how much is Mahomes worth? So this is where you're getting into, and it's almost like at some point you have to just start rounding a little bit. You can't just like I don't understand the people that can be like, okay, well this guy's worth 0.75 and this guy's worth a quarter. It's like, wait a minute. Like I want at some point, like this isn't like you're going to the grocery store and you're just shopping around. Like you have to like
Oh, that's organic. Well, I'll pay a little more.
like at some point you have to say like to me it's quarterback and then you maybe take it in bulk and look at like, and I don't mean taking something, don't go to Costco. I mean like looking at the defense and say, okay, they're going to be missing three other guys in the secondary. That's probably worth a point and a half. Um, so Mahomes and all this is worth two touchdowns, a two-touchdown swing.
I mean, last year,
Broncos just have to win. Like
I
at
think
some point, Carson Wentz, if he wants to keep playing in the league, like he has to put forth a good product, right?
if he
We've
wants
seen
to
we've
have
seen
the
some really
money,
bad products from him.
if he wants to have the money in his account to get some North Dakota stylist to make him a camo jacket
Heck
again,
yeah.
he's gonna have to do a little bit more. Though I'm sure making $5 million a year holding a clipboard is probably exactly what he wants with his life at this point, and probably I would take that.
And maybe that's the motivation is like, hey, I have to be good enough to be someone's backup.
So
You know
let's
what I
think
mean?
backwards. So the Broncos need to win.
They just have to win.
They don't need to win by 11 points. The Chiefs are competitive, of course. They're like the most dominant NFL franchise that we've seen in our lifetime, probably,
Sure.
at least with two going for potentially three straight Super Bowl titles with a one seed, home field advantage, and an extra bye that no one else has. So that all works together. Um, I just wonder, like, the Chiefs backups, I think, are playing for as much playing time as possible in the playoffs. Maybe get some good tape out there, move to another team in the offseason, or potentially get some run in the playoffs that are about to start. I think anyone on that field is motivated, no matter how long you're out there, because you can't play any sort of other way. I do think there's some more desperation in the Broncos, and I think they'll be hitting the gaps harder and maybe
Yeah.
making sure go for, or fight for an extra few yards versus the Chiefs maybe going out of bounds before that to avoid a hit. But like those things are really hard to handicap and say that they're worth 65 cents at Costco versus 50 cents at Walmart,
Mhm.
just to get all the other brands into the show. I think to me the Broncos have a lot of flaws. I thought the Chargers kind of exposed what the Broncos were on Thursday Night Football fairly recently, which was the Broncos dominating the first half. And then I think the Chargers kind of figured out what the Broncos were doing, which was sending a ton of blitzers and trying to fill up all gaps. And I think that's something you can adjust to. Andy Reid should have that ability, but does he have the personnel to do it? I think it's really hard to want to back Kansas City, but I feel like in a stale line pool, I don't know how I'm taking Denver in this matchup.
Yeah. So they've got 10 wins. Five of those wins this year have come by 11 points or more. Um,
Pretty good rate, half of them.
half of them. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the thing with it, like you've said it in many different ways, it could get out of hand. Like it's a home game in Denver. It's a division game. You're playing the Chiefs. Doesn't matter if it's without Mahomes or not. Like this is your chance. You need to win to clinch a playoff spot. Like all those things go into play. Um, and that's the challenge of like really even what you're saying about doing a show about this week is there's really only a couple games to truly handicap because once you start talking about other games, you get a little weird and things can get clipped and be like, wow, these guys don't know what anything they're talking about. Like nothing.
I look forward to. Please clip it for us. I'll retweet it if you want to.
Oh,
And it'll
I
be
I truly feel like once you get haters, like you've made it. So Griffin, like if people are mean to you, just know you've made it.
yeah. Everyone's really nice to me. So would you start being mean? Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you in advance. Signed
Don't
at
worry.
First Nigger on Twitter.
I'll be meaner
Great.
going forward.
Let's go to the mean man who likes to pour beer on crotches. We'll go to the Miami
That's
Dolphins.
not true.
They
That is a
picked
lie.
The Dolphins, who do need to win, looks like Tua is not playing based on this number and all the speculation. When the
Yeah.
coach says he's probably not going to need surgery, that's probably signifying that there's a bit of an injury there. Dolphins a pick 'em right now, all the juice right now, so probably -1 across the street, if you will. Total is
Yeah.
39 on a trip to the New York Jets.
Yes. Huntley looked okay.
He looked fine, but it was also against. I mean, how do you compare the
Okay.
Browns to the Jets defense at this point?
All right, we've talked about Miami's offense, how it plays in rhythm. It's this whole kind of concert. Huntley came in early in the year and could not get anybody in rhythm. So all these playmakers you have, they're not in rhythm.
Hmm.
They're out, one's playing the trombone, the other one's playing jazz flute. There's just no mixture. That you better be careful with some of the gestures you're making there. Um, so
You're right.
um,
Right.
he looked better. Huntley he looked better. This is Aaron Rodgers' last game, right? So he's gonna go out on top.
Well,
Is
I
he
was
playing?
hoping that because I tweeted earlier this year that I asked the world if anyone thought that Aaron Rodgers would finish the season with the New York Jets, and everyone said, "Of course he will. Yeah, yeah, yeah." But I thought there was a chance he might hang it up. Um,
Okay, let's actually this game I had a bet on the over in the first matchup of this one. It
that one,
hit.
that hit.
Um,
Didn't even need Davon chain to score
no,
a touchdown for.
but this one feels much different, even though Jets defense has fallen off a cliff. Um,
I mean, they were in a tight game with the Bills and then lost 40 to nothing. I think we can only. I don't know who's betting the Jets here.
yeah,
God bless you if you are, and I love it. I hope you do. I just don't think I'll be doing it myself.
that's what like this
We'll go
is,
a little
and
bit
I'm
rapid fire after you
okay.
part.
No, I just want to like I'm not trying to kill the views of this podcast, but it's like really hard to find a best bet for a week like this because like it's just such a guys playing half the game, guys playing like Josh Allen's going to play for what 4 snaps to keep his streak going.
Hmm. Probably enough. Then again, they did struggle with the New England Patriots just a couple weeks ago because for some reason the schedule is putting 2 games against the same opponent in 3 weeks' time. Move
Mhm.
next to the Chargers. They're 4.5 point favorites on the road at the Las Vegas Raiders. Totals 41.5 in this one. Chargers have something to play for. The Raiders, they've been playing for not getting the number 1 pick, which is hilarious. But Chargers seem like they have something that they need here. Do you see any reason to back the Raiders?
Um, I mean, I could make a case. No, can't.
Yeah.
I thought I said I might, but then I tried to think through it and I can't.
Another notable Texans 1.5 point underdogs at Tennessee. Total is 37 in this one. As far as I know, D'Amico Ryan said he's playing his guys, but we have no idea for how long.
I mean, they gotta play and try to figure out some sort of way to get in rhythm. I know I've said rhythm and concert and you've been playing fake instruments over there, but like again, they're not on the same page either. It's a mess. I saw
I hope they don't play
someone
together.
saying like, "Don't look now," but Bryce Young has played better over the last month than CJ Stroud, and I was like, "Dang!"
CJ Stroud could not hit water if he fell out of a boat right now, is my humble.
Like I was like, "Wow, you really said something there. Makes sense."
Bucks 13.5 point favorites at the New Orleans Saints. Totals 43.5 in this one.
This
Uh,
is a big one for my win total.
ooh, yeah.
Let's keep
Uh,
losing.
I do feel like the Bucks. I mean, if the Bucks don't
I
win.
think we're both in good shape.
Well, I think if you were playing NFC South under win totals, I think you had a good time. And we both somehow in our best bets played one each on the NFC side. Others of interest, Bills 2.5 or just 2 point favorites to New England, but we talked
Yeah.
about that game doesn't matter. Packers 10 point favorites, the Bears. That one seems like it will matter. And who can back the Bears at this point? Let's see. The Colts, they're eliminated to the Jaguars, 5 point favorites. Atlanta Falcons, 9 point favorites to the Panthers. Panthers with all the juice right now. Total is 48 on this matchup. I feel like I've thought the Carolina Panthers have been very, very competitive for a while. It did not show up last week. And honestly, I was so impressed by Terrell and his lockdown of
Yeah.
Terry Warren last week for Atlanta. Any letdown do you see from Atlanta knowing that they are on the outside looking in? Or do we think we see two big favorite victories in the NFC South?
No, I could see us trying to convince ourselves to take the Panthers again.
Yeah.
For the reasons you just listed, like there's been some quit in the Falcons throughout the year. I'm just not a fan of that coaching staff. We talked a little bit about it. Yeah, I'm just not a fan of much of that, their decision making or their abilities. So
All right, before we get to best bets,
okay,
make sure you follow us on Spotify. We'll be with you throughout the entire playoffs, and we'll be giving you winners through the Super Bowl. Go check us out, Betting the Pitch on Spotify and on Apple Podcasts. On YouTube, go to the real underscore G Warner, and that's where you can get this 1 minute best bet portion. I don't think it makes sense for us to go in the time allotted to cover anything else. So A underscore sticker. I know it's tough to find a best bet, but there is money to be made on
there's
this
money to be made. Hey, it's
podcast.
all green. Doesn't matter. It's all green.
It's all green and it all spends at Costco.
Costco, that's a place I go to far too often. I feel like we're gonna have the same best bet.
I'm ready. Give it to me.
We're gonna go with the Steelers on Saturday night, but we're not gonna go yet.
Okay.
I feel like we can do this. We can. Let's go with the Steelers. Let's wait until Saturday evening to see if we can get a three. And sometimes, we tout that we get in early and that the line's going to move, but it's always about market entry. And I think the important thing here is to wait for the market. You're not going to lose anything by waiting out and seeing if we can get a +3 on the Pittsburgh Steelers at home against Cincinnati Bengals on Saturday night.
Hey, this is real underscore G Warner on Instagram, Patreon, Twitter, and on YouTube. This is the NFL podcast on Betting the Pitch Podcast Network. You just heard A underscore Snicker back off of his sojourn at the Costco near his house. He is giving you his best bet on Saturday evening. The Pittsburgh Steelers, currently 2.5 point underdogs, but he's waiting for three. Would advocate buying it there, but expects we'll get a three before kickoff on Saturday evening. For my best bet, the real underscore G Warner on Instagram, Patreon, Twitter, and on YouTube, I'm going to go a similar type of reasoning, but different game. I'm going the Minnesota Vikings 3 point underdogs on Sunday Night Football. Get that, pay the juice you need to. I think it's really important to protect a +3 in the most, I think, frequent of loss margins in the NFL. I don't really advocate buying points as a favorite, but certainly do as an underdog to get to three. So grab those Pittsburgh Steelers +3 points and the Minnesota Vikings +3 points as we try to get you a 2-0 as we start the NFL playoffs. And that'll do it for this episode. A underscore sticker. Do you got anything else you want to get off your chest before we get through this week 18 minefield and focus on the playoffs?
No, you need some rest. You've had a busy couple of days. I need my guy to get rested and recovered.
You're right.
So we hit
That
the
that
stretch
sounds
run.
like a good idea. I will make sure to put on the eye shades and we'll get ready for another big weekend on the Betting Pitch Podcast Network. Thank you to A underscore Snicker for his service this season, and we'll be with you next week. We'll try to figure out a time, but probably Tuesday, I think, would be
Yeah.
the best way to go back to our normal schedule. And at least we won't have to diagnose what string of center will be playing for the Kansas City Chiefs. So we'll see you next week. Thanks so much for supporting us all season. Make sure you hit the follow button at the real underscore G Warner at A underscore Snicker, and we'll see you on Tuesday night for the playoff edition. Can't wait.